attending today as we discuss the important issue of Sandpoint Beach safety and the future of this facility. Let me begin by recognizing once more the sad tragedy that happened here recently, just over a week ago. And I think, you know, those of us who are parents, certainly as a dad, you never stop worrying about your kids, whether they're 4 or 24. And we certainly acknowledge what happened here last week as another tragedy in our community. And what most of you don't know in terms of the story of Sandpoint Beach is that on August 5th, 1996, I was a Windsor Police Auxiliary Officer, a position that I held for 15 years in the community, and I was assigned to the Ganacho Trail on mountain bike. And late in the afternoon, after the lifeguards had left Sandpoint Beach, I should also tell you I was a lifeguard for the city at the same time. I had 2 roles while I was in university. And so late that afternoon on August 5th, 1996, I was dispatched by the dispatch at Windsor Police to attend Sandpoint Beach for a possible drowning. And I was first on the scene when that occurred. And I remember very vividly the chaos of the situation. That was the day that 14-year-old Christina Jackson drowned in the same area that the gentleman drowned just over a week ago. And I remember the chaos of that situation. I remember the fear that the family had, trying to get information, relaying it back to the Windsor Police so they could dispatch the right support to the area, and trying to deal with the family who was obviously in crisis and panicked, as any parent would be, as any human being should be, if they see someone who goes under the water and not resurface. And so my first instinct was to get information, relay it back. My second instinct was to take my shirt and my shorts off and my shoes off and dive in the water to see if I could help. And units responded very quickly, our Marine unit, and ultimately it took a private diver about a day or two to actually go down and find Christina Jackson about in the same place where the gentleman was found earlier this week. And the drowning earlier this week certainly is the first since I've been elected to City Council, but it also ignited something inside of me that said we have to do something. And it's not like we weren't doing something already, and I think it's important to recognize that because Windsor City Council and the plan to relocate Sandpoint Beach has been on the books for a number of years, and in fact City Council has already funded over $1 million in funding to make that project happen in our 10-year capital budget. And so reflecting on the Jackson family and a few others before, since the beach opened in 1980, who've gone through very tragic circumstances in almost precisely the same spot at the beach, I certainly offer my deep condolences on behalf of the City of Windsor to the family and the loved ones of the young man who lost his life here a little over a week ago. And we certainly can't take that pain away, but this community does mourn with you. And when Sandpoint Beach officially opens later this year, actually in a month from now, I want to underscore that this remains a safe place for families to swim and to cool off from the summer heat. But we can't escape the fact that the Detroit River and Lake St. Clair are busy shipping channels, and the currents in this area are strong, and they require everyone to adhere to the safety guidelines in place. And you'll notice behind me right now the fisherman out in the water who is clearly not obeying the fence area and the signs that are clearly marked. And we did not stage that. That is just a natural thing that happens here. And so despite all of the city's best intentions and all of the efforts that we put forward, it's impossible to police this beach 24 hours a day and make sure everyone follows all of the guidelines and safety measures in place. And I think if you look at that gentleman right now, he's actually in a very, very close spot right to the edge of where the shipping channel would start and the beach area stops. So he's actually not in the best safety position from I think Jen Knights would agree, from our lifeguarding perspective, it is not a very safe position to be in. In the City of Windsor, we take great care to ensure that within the demarked zones where the buoys are deployed to clearly indicate the safe areas for swimming, the public is aware of the appropriate aquatic boundaries. In 2012, City Council received a detailed report from the Life Saving Society which looked at our safety measures at Sandpoint Beach and didn't find any major safety risks that required immediate action. They did, however, provide 17 recommendations to the city for consideration, and I'm proud to say that our team has implemented and completed all 17 recommendations from the Life Saving Society. Those included installing additional fencing, which you see, providing for new signage, built new lifeguard towers which are installed seasonally, and we relocated the volleyball courts away from the high-risk water area to this area here. The City of Windsor's capital plan lays out $1.6 billion in spending over the next decade and commits $170 million this year alone. And among that $170 million is over $17.5 million, which is the highest ever amount for our parks and recreation facilities. And I know that for several years we've talked about the prospect of relocating Sandpoint Beach. In fact, it's part of our 10-year plan, as I mentioned earlier. City Council identified the funding for the environmental assessment that will be required before the project can get underway. We must do an environmental assessment before we move the beach further to the east. Since his election and the by-election, Councillor Jeewen Gill has been working behind the scenes to advance this funding, which is currently on our books in 2024. And for those members of the media, you can appreciate that we operate within a 5-year capital window, so if projects are within the 5-year capital window, City Council can authorize them to be pulled over and executed sooner than the year that they're actually slated for funding. But Councillor Gill has prepared a motion for City Council to consider at our next public meeting, and I wanted to be the first to congratulate him on this advocacy. There are those who would use this recent tragedy to stage photo ops and to try and score political points. Political points while the body was still in the water. But I know that Jeewen Gill has done the opposite. He's a hard-working representative who has shown in a short period of time on council the ability to move forward on an agenda that matters for all of the constituents in his ward. The COVID-19 pandemic has reinforced that community spaces, parks, trails, playgrounds, golf courses, and beaches are places where residents are going to congregate. These are also amenities that City Council and administration take seriously, and we are focused on improving the quality of life for all of our residents in all of these public spaces. And I'd like to turn the podium now over to Councillor Gill to speak about his upcoming motion.
Thank you, Your Worship, for that introduction. I too want to extend my condolences to the family who lost their son here. Nothing that we can do as elected officials can bring him back. As the mayor said, we know that Sandpoint Beach is a safe place to visit and swim. However, in the areas outside of the designated boundary, the tides can be strong and the water becomes quite deep very quickly. In my conversation with the residents, it becomes clear to me that the City of Windsor could do even more to protect residents coming to Sandpoint Beach in the summer. During the recent budget deliberations, the mayor and administration helped me secure over $1.1 million for Sandpoint Beach within the 10-year capital plan. Starting in 2024, funding has already been set aside to begin the work required to relocate the beach further east and maximize the distance between swimmers and more dangerous waters. The first step will be to undertake a detailed environmental assessment. At the next meeting of Windsor City Council on Monday, I will putting forward a motion to advance the funding for the EA for 2024 and begin the process immediately. I am hopeful that Council will adopt my motion and I will be secure the support of my colleagues on Council before the meeting next week. The EA will determine the options and costs associated with relocating Sandpoint Beach. Then I will return to the Council to fight for the money to get this project done. But even when this project is complete and we relocate the official beach and swimming area, it will be important for residents to adhere to the safety signage and fencing that is located in the riverfront. Each year, the City of Windsor makes safety and security improvements to inform the public and highlight the dangers of entering the waters outside of the approved zone. Relocating the beach will be a big step forward, but we also need to continue post information signs and talk about water safety to avoid further tragedies. I want to thank the city staff, specifically Jen Knights, who has joined us here today, and Ray Mansour for their help and advice as I have navigated this issue since my election last year. At this time, Ms. Knights, Mayor Dilkens, and I'm available to answer questions from the media. Thank you.